Hey guys, Lone Vic here and welcome back to my channel. Today it's time to review Encyclopedia, a game from Holy Grail Games for 1 to 4 players about writing the first encyclopedia of the natural world, or helping write one. It's a dice management or worker placement kind of game with a lot of set collection mechanic. In this video I will be sharing my personal opinion. I will be telling you what's good and what's not so good in this game, what I liked and didn't really after my playthroughs, and well, maybe this will help you in any way to decide whether you would like to add this game to your shelf or not. If you like the video and if you want to support what I'm doing here on my channel, there's the like button under the video, there is the notification and subscribe buttons below the video as well, and in the link in the description for this video you can also buy me a cup of coffee. And well, without delaying it any further, let's talk about first the good size of Encyclopedia. Okay, so starting from the positives, guys. Now, Encyclopedia struck me as a game that is very well made. It looks very nice on the table. I mean, starting with the containers that you get for the coins and for the expedition tokens and for the royal seals and the metal coins that you got on Kickstarter. Take a look at how they jingle a lot. Take a look at how nice they look. I don't know if you can see it very well in the camera, but they are brilliant. There you go. They're very nice. This is a $5 here. Hefty coins. We've got like those wooden thick expedition tokens and royal seals as well. So the high quality product is here in the box. We're missing an organizer in a way, but still I managed to pack it so that I can store it vertically and nothing really is being displaced, so it's not the most necessary thing in this game. The cards themselves are very nice. Like, for example, take a look at this one. The drawings are great on all of the cards. I'm looking at the screen to see if the camera catches the sharpness, so sorry for not doing the eye contact thing. But as you can see, yeah, the drawings of all the animals on all the cards and everything, they're great. There is a multitude of those cards, as you can see. So you've got different animals, different continents, different species, different everything, right? So it's a very pretty game to play, definitely. So that's one, that the value for money is definitely there. The second one is that the gameplay flows very quickly. The rounds, the turns that the players are taking are pretty fast. Some actions, because you've got 6 actions that you can take during the game, some actions are quicker than others and they're like just momentary actions that you do, but there is very little downtime even with the longest of the actions, really. So you don't have to wait for your turn too long. It doesn't really drag. And the next thing that I would say is positive is that the iconography and all the markings on the board and everywhere on all the components are very clear and very cohesive, so that you really don't have, once you learn the rules, you really have no doubts about what's where and what is what. So that's definitely something when it comes to, that's saying something when it comes to the design of the game and the thought that went into it. The next thing is that there are many options during a round of things that you can do. So you're not only focusing on one specific tactic, but there are a few ways of getting points at the end of the game, and that's definitely a plus. There is a level of unpredictability connected with this round track here that gives you randomly drawn in the beginning of the game bonuses during each round, and you know about them only when the round starts, so this is a nice twist as well. If you have this Magna Terra add-on that comes with the Kickstarter edition, at least, I don't know how it's going to be in the retail, the event deck and the additional cards with fossils and some other stuff also help make the game richer, which is cool. And the one last thing that I will add to the positive side of the game definitely is that the game kind of has a certain flow when it comes to the organization of the gameplay and what you are doing during the game that I really like. That the actions are kind of organized very well from, I don't know if this was purposefully or accidentally, from the easiest ones being on the top of the board to the most complex ones being on the bottom of the board, and they're like kind of segmented, so you always know where everybody is and what's going on, and everything is enclosed into those spaces with the actions. You don't need a lot of player aids for this game, and you don't need a lot of additional rifling through the rule book as with some other titles. That is not to say that the rules aren't complex enough to merit a heavy rating for the game, because this is not a light game. This is not your usual beginner's a walk in the park kind of game, right? And also the mechanic of what you do with your dice or your enemy's dice during the game is also gives a little bit of a pretty clever twist. But in order to benefit from this mechanic, you have to play the game with the same group a few times to make it kind of sink in that what options you have, because you not only use your own dice, but you can use the enemy dice in order to perform actions on the board, and sometimes you have to. But if you are taking a die from the enemy, then they will get one of the bonuses over here on the top of their player board, depending on where they placed the die in the first place. And so this tactical placement of the dice, trying to predict who might need the die if I'm not going to use it in order to get a bonus, becomes kind of an additional layer of mechanic in the game. But it's not that apparent during the first game, where I found everybody's just placing the die chronologically from the lowest number to the highest number, and that's it, because you think that the highest number is going to be the most sought after. But then it also is dependent on the color of the die and on the fact that both the color and the numbers can be changed by certain game effects by players. So you have to really take some time to predict which dice will be the most popular ones and which you can benefit from placing them on certain spaces on your board. So this additional layer is also very interesting, and I like it quite a lot after a few playthroughs. Additionally, the solo mode, I haven't recorded a video for it yet, but I will. It's incoming, because I think that it's good enough to merit a separate playthrough video, is also pretty good. So if you're looking for a solo game that's going to be okay with the maintenance and with learning the rules, not too complex, but also challenging to play, then this would be a good choice too. Okay, so now let's go into the not so good for a moment, because I would like to say about a few things that I didn't really like about the game. Now, first things first, some designer choices that I'm going to talk about just because they made me kind of like go, why? This is the player board, right? And on one side of the player board, you attach this little piece, which has a few rules here, a reminder of a few rules here about the publishing action especially, and then it can be flipped because here you have the table with the scoring for the end game. So it's logical that this flips, and that's okay, right? But also on the other side here you've got the indentation for, well, for these little guys, and those are like the portraits of your characters, which even the rulebook states do nothing for the game. They're just here as a flavor, kind of. But I don't really understand what kind of flavor they add, because you can't even identify the color of the player by those. You identify it by the other pieces that you have, but that's not really connected to this choice, because, well, red on one side, green on the other side, and whatnot. So I have no idea what they're for. They're here just to be there, so that was a kind of like a scratch my head moment for me, but a little one. The second thing is that I really was hoping for a more educational factor to the game, not only the fact that you find out something about, you know, how the Encyclopedia of Natural History of the natural world was created, because you do find out some things about that. There are a lot of surnames on the cards of different researchers and stuff like that, but they're not really, you know, referred to in any historical or any educational detail. But the fact that I was hoping for really was that all of those animal cards that you can see here, they have their Latin name on top, right? So the Latin name that you would find in the encyclopedia. But I was really rooting for, even in brackets somewhere below in some subscript, to have the English name for each of those species, so that you can just, like, you know, look at the picture and just find out, oh, so how does the giant turtle looks like, right? And you also can derive that, okay, so it lives in North and South America and blah 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 blah, right? And it's an herbivore and it lives in grasslands. How specific those informations are, you know, how reliable they are, but at least you would have the, you know, the normal English name of each animal, and that would account for something. And here you've got the picture, you've got all the information, the continent, the, you know, whether it's a reptile, whether it's amphibian, or whether it's a mammal or a bird, and you've got whether it's an herbivore or a carnivore, or and so forth and so on, and you don't have the name of the animal in English. So the educational factor is here that you'll be just running around shouting out random Latin names of animals because you know them. So that's kind of like, I was hoping for it to kind of benefit more from this, but then again, it's not a detractor, it's just kind of like a remark in this case, that those Latin names, I would like, at least in brackets, like those English regular names for those animals. It would be way more interesting with the content of the cards as well in this case. But I gather that this was a design choice because, you know, in this encyclopedia they were using Latin names, so, you know, identifying the species by the Latin name, so forth and so on, it kind of fit historically and thematically into the game. Now, when it comes to the game mechanics, there are two things that I need to mention that I didn't quite like or wrap my head around in the very beginning. Now, they've added this little help for you next to your player board for what you do and how you calculate points during the publishing action. But what I'm missing here is also some rule and some visual help, visual aid on what you do with all of those tokens, because this token can change the color of a die, but during the expedition action it can also increase the value of a die by 2. So it's either or during the expedition action. In the other actions it only changes the color. One coin value can increase a value of any die by 1. This gives you an additional move, additional turn at the end of the round, or it gives you 5 coins, or it can change the color of the die and increase its value by 5, which is iconography written here on those pieces, and it is kind of iconographically represented on this piece if you get used to this, but still some kind of visual aid over here of what you can do with all of those would be great. The only place that it's referred to is in this gaming aid on the reverse side of the rule book, and I think that this is not visually apparent enough for all the gamers around the table. So this is one thing that I would change when it comes to the mechanical design of the game. The second thing is that after reading the rulebook for the first time, I was kind of trying to wrap my head around the publishing action and then the rules for the scoring, the main rules for the scoring, and I felt that they are either not very clearly explained in the rulebook, and that the rulebook would benefit with 1 or 2 like very detailed examples of those actions and of the final scoring, like a step-by-step example of how you score everything and how you perform the action, to clarify that. Or maybe that those actions themselves are a bit too complicated for their own good, but I think it's the first rather than the latter in this case. Because really, the first 4 actions, dead simple, and you will explain them in like a minute to everybody, right? 1 minute per action and they're clear. The fifth action, which is the expedition, a bit more complex, but it's still quite reachable when it comes to the first explanation attempt. And then you've got the publishing action, which is a bit of an, after you explain it for the first time to anybody, it's like, they went over the top with this. This is too complicated. This could have been a bit simpler. But once you get used to it and you play the game, you understand that this is how it was supposed to be, maybe. It's that it fits, but it's still a bit overwhelming in the very beginning. And like I said, in order to wrap your head around those actions, I would have really liked to see more detailed examples in the rulebook to analyze those things, because I was just sitting there and scratching my head, reading the same sentences, the same paragraphs a few times, and just like, okay, I think I get it. Now let's try it in reality. But what if this happens? And okay, so once more. So yeah, so something like this. But all in all, that's not really detracting from the great fun value of this game. So to sum up, if you're looking for a game that has a good production value, that looks very nice on the table, that's really colorful and very attractive, that has a very good game flow with very little downtime, with some tricky, interesting, fresh mechanics when it comes to the dice placement especially, you're not afraid of having to ponder through the rules for 1 or 2 actions to just make it rolling, and you won't be annoyed by having Latin names on all the cards and really not knowing what those animals are in reality because of the Latin names only, then Encyclopedia is a very good choice, and it will be a very cool, a happy addition to anybody's shelf. Definitely. Thanks for watching this review, guys. I hope it's helped you in any way if you were deciding, if you're on the shelf, whether to take a look at Encyclopedia or not. If you liked the video, once again, like under the video, subscribe, notification button, help the channel grow, support what I'm doing here if you think that it's helpful in any way. And there is a link in the description of the video if you would like to buy me a coffee for what I'm doing here. And for now, thank you very much. I hope you are having a very Merry Christmas time and that you're spending it with your family and everything is great and you've got, you know, good weather and you're taking some time off and relaxing and doing whatever you want. And I hope that Santa was good for you this year as well. Thank you very much for watching. See you soon. Stay safe. Bye-bye.